Welcome to Jobs Out the Box. A very, very warm welcome to you all, our audience, and thank you for sharing the space with us today. I'm your host, Lionel Bourgeois, co-host, Biliso Sebole, and we have our very good friend, Noel, who's here to join us. And Noel is a PI, and Noel, I'd love to hear from you. What is it that makes a good private investigator?
First of all, your heart has to be in it. It's got to be the thing that you've dreamed, that you wanted to do all your life, basically. Guys love it. Guys and girls who are people persons would fit well into this job.
Okay.
So you've got to love people. You've got to want to help people. That's got to be your dream.
Okay.
That's the kind of person really that we look for.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
And taking yourself back into memory lane, what would you remember about your own humble beginnings?
I started off, strangely enough, somebody just kind of suggested to me, try law enforcement. And I went for a job interview like the next day with the Wynberg Sheriff's Office. And they said, well, you're such a big guy and, you've got this presence, so we're going to try you.
Okay, so size helps.
Size helps a lot.
Right. Okay.
But what really helps more than size is your presence, the way you fill a room.
Okay.
Because anybody in law enforcement,
Sure.
you need to be able to take command of a space.
Quite correct. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I learned that the hard way.
So Noel, just out of curiosity, what are the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis in your profession?
A lot of the people that we investigate don't want to be investigated.
Yes.
And a lot of the people we look for don't want to be found.
Of course.
So, so the thing with an investigation is there's so many X factors because there are people outside of yourself that are involved, and they throw their own decisions into the mix. So you've got to kind of play it by ear every second. The job changes every second as you go.
Wow.
This sounds quite like maybe difficult, but from my side I'm thinking, is there any skills that you need to do the work that you do, like karate skills, or what skills are there?
Yes, I mean, I myself am very well up on self-defense and things like that. And I don't believe in carrying firearms on the job because it actually puts you in more danger than what it helps. But we do use a thing called minimum force. In other words, just enough force to get the job done, working with the police service.
And that's the thing that you're carrying around your waist, right? I had to ask about this. I mean, I wasn't sure what this thing was around his waist.
This is a standard issue British baton, British police baton.
Okay.
It flicks out like that.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Quite nifty.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to knight us.
Well, I was thinking I could use it in my training and start pointing at the board as a pointer.
So, yeah, but it folds away nicely. I can tell you this, though, your most important weapon is your personality and your voice.
Right.
I have never yet had to pull this out on official duty.
Okay.
Just the fact that I have it there is reassuring. And I would use it if it came down to it, but it's the last resort.
Being more fashion conscious, I would have thought it might have been a fold-up umbrella or something, which I suppose you'd be able to use in your own work.
Well, the problem is I'm so big that like if you get a fold-up umbrella, it covers about that much of me. So.
Yeah.
The rest of me gets wet.
So Noel, I have a rather strange question to ask you, but what do you do when you catch a cheating partner?
Geez, we hate those jobs.
But tell us more. Tell us what happens.
I really want to know.
Look, it's all about getting the evidence. So it's about getting photographs. It's about recording who the person's with and things like that. We actually don't do very many of those jobs anymore because the divorce requirements have changed over the years.
Okay.
You no longer need to have a legal reason for divorce. You do need to have a reason, but the reason can simply be what they call irreconcilable differences.
Okay.
So you can just cite that. So, but for people's own their own minds, for their settled to sort of get closure, they sometimes ask us to do those investigations. And when we do, we always go into it with a thing in mind of that there's two sides to a story,
Of course. Yes.
and that there are emotions involved on both sides. You know, so when you catch a cheating spouse, you can sometimes put yourself in danger because the guy really doesn't want to get caught.
It's really funny.
It sounds like a stressful moment and a stressful job. How do you deal with the stresses of your job?
Man, I have a number of things that I call switches, like a mind switch. I don't know if you remember, there was a movie that starred Sylvester Stallone some years ago.
You're giving your age away, Noel.
I remember that name.
What can I say? Just look at the grey hair, man.
But Sylvester, I can remember.
Yeah. And he talks about, in this movie, he talks about having a switch.
Okay.
And he is wearing a baseball cap, and he turns it around. And as he turns it around, he becomes another person. Beyonce also talks about that.
Okay.
She has a stage personality that is different to her home personality.
Right. Okay.
So the famous Beyonce is not actually someone real. Okay. She talks about this, and she actually has a name and a surname for the stage person.
Right. Okay.
So
Interesting.
that's what we do. So you go home, you turn the cap. Okay. You've got to have physical switches that you do. For me, it's about putting my keys in the tray.
So it's a significant detail of action.
You actually have to have a moment, and that moment is I hear the clunk as the keys go into the tray.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you collaborate with law enforcement? I mean, you're closely linked, right?
We're extremely closely linked.
Wow.
We actually work with them pretty much every day.
Okay.
And the approach that we take is they're the boss. We are providing backup.
Okay.
South African police services are seriously underfunded, seriously understaffed, and even way more seriously under-equipped.
Okay.
We've got the equipment, we've got the staff, and we've got the training. So what we do is we will go in, we will make friends with they call them the IO, the investigating officer on a docket.
Right.
And we'll say to them, okay, dude, look, what do you need? Okay. What do you need that you oaks can't do quickly? Okay. And they'll give us a list. They'll say to us, listen, we need this, we need that, we need that. We say, right, don't worry, we'll meet with you again in a few days. Leave it to us.
So you are like the Speedy Gonzalez of this, because you're talking about doing things quickly.
Yes, we do. You know, the thing is, unfortunately, the wheels of justice grind slowly in South Africa because of the very unique challenges that we face here.
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you an example. You're working in the city, it's kind of westernized and it's kind of modern and things like that. Try going to the Eastern Cape, okay? I mean, the oaks there don't even have streets or addresses. It's a different world entirely.
Yeah, so you've got to be able to adapt and adjust.
You've got to be able to adapt and adjust. You've got to understand everybody's culture, okay, and you have to respect it.
Okay.
If I had to use a keyword, the single central thing in every single thing we do, respect.
That makes sense.
Powerful.
I like that. I like that. So Noel, what licensing requirements do you need to be a private investigator?
That's actually a really strange one in South Africa.
Okay.
We're the only one of the very few countries in the world that is not licensed by a police force. Overseas,
Okay.
in for example, in the USA, private investigators are licensed by their state police forces. In Australia, it's the same thing, a number of other places.
So
Here,
then what happens here then?
we are licensed by the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority. So you actually register as a security company.
Okay.
Now the problem that we have here, big problem that we have here, is that Pasira is not set up for PIs. So you get your licensing from them, but they offer no support.
So you're on your own, or how does that work?
You are completely on your own. They have no training courses. The only PI work that they have training courses for is undercover officers in retail settings.
Okay.
So you know,
yes, of course. Yes, yes.
Your anti-theft guys that are in, but further than that, they provide no training.
So where do you get your training? And my other question is really, so who pays you in the end? I mean, if you're supporting the police force or the law enforcement, and so how does your firm get paid? Where does the money come from?
Okay, so the complainants in the police case, in other words, the guys that lay the charge, they're the guys that hire us.
Oh,
Okay, so they're contractually bound to you.
They contract with us. We agree with them to do certain actions, right? So that's kind of how we work. We'll lay out, look, we need to do this, X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, certain tactics and techniques that are needed for this particular case.
supported with a legal agreement.
We do that. We do it fairly informally, just by exchange of emails, rather than this whole sort of formal contract. Okay, but in South Africa, thank goodness, that counts as a contract. So
Yes, it does. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we just set it up like that, but it's always a tripartite thing because it's us, them, and the police. Pretty
Right,
much every time.
Right,
Partnership.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that the children in the audience probably want to know how different is your work from what we see on TV or in movies.
Okay, let me put it this way. You ever looked at the moon
Yes.
Yeah.
and then you've looked at the sun?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the difference. There's almost no similarity whatsoever.
Okay. Right. So I'm not sure if that's encouraging or discouraging.
Let's put it this way. We do things here in South Africa in a very South African way, okay? Because of the multitude of cultures and languages and the way people understand things differently and things like that, we have to adapt.
So from an excitement perspective, I mean, when somebody thinks of a PI, we probably think of Magnum PI, So and the movies make it look really exciting and
Fancy
thrilling,
Ferrari and whatnot.
So obviously that's far-fetched compared to what you actually do. But what is the excitement factor?
The excitement factor is when you find that missing person.
Okay.
We had a case recently, obviously I can't mention names and
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
but the person was what we call an EDP, emotionally disturbed person,
Okay.
and this person had gone missing 2 days before.
Okay.
We were hired, and we started off by doing all the background on this person, finding out what they typically like to do and where they typically like to go and things like that. And then it got, literally we did a physical search.
Okay.
And we found this lady, it was a lady, in the area where we thought we were going to find her. But it was a matter of literally searching every street and every street corner and every restaurant.
Wow.
And it was such a moment when I turned to my partner and I said to him, there she is.
What?
It is such a cool moment because in that moment, for the first time in 2 days, you know that woman is safe.
You bring so much
that brought shivers to my body.
Oh.
I mean, that's okay. So I get that excitement.
Yeah.
That kind of landed for me. Yeah, so.
There's a lot of really vulnerable people out there. And that's why I said in the beginning of the interview, you really have to want to help people.
So you have to have the heart for people out there, even
Yes.
when you're young or you're wise at age.
Yeah. You really have to have a heart for people because you must remember you're sometimes working 24 hours straight.
Because that's the other thing. I mean, your working hours. I mean, it's not a 9-to-5 job.
No.
Seriously. Wow.
And if I could leave your audience with one thought,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be a PI, never do it to get rich.
Okay,
Okay.
you're doing it purely for the calling and the passion. I suppose it's very much the same as if you're going into the medical profession and you want to be a nurse, something like that. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because it's the calling. It's the passion that drives through.
Yeah. And you must remember, if you're in this game, if you're doing it for the money, you will not pick up the reputation you need to be successful.
Because that will only be like your main focus. Is that what you?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Whereas your main focus needs to be to find that missing person or to rescue that, whatever it is. I mean, sometimes we're dealing with people that have been kidnapped, and stuff like that. You've got to get them out of danger.
Wow.
To do that, you have to be prepared to lay your life on the line.
You're like the savior, hey?
Well, it goes way beyond money.
Yes,
It
yes,
just-
no,
it just
totally get
does.
that. Totally get that.
You know.
Wow.
So,
No,
yeah.
I must say, it's, I kind of knew that you were a private investigator, but obviously one is biased to what one sees in movies, and there's always kind of, oh, that's so exciting. But I've never actually really spoken, to you about what you do in detail as we have today, and I've got a whole different respect for what you do. I really do, and so thank you for sharing.
It's a great pleasure.
So I'd like to just leave our audience with the final question. What advice would you want to give someone who'd like to enter in your profession? I mean, you've given us a few tips, but if there was one thing that some advice that you'd like to give us?
Go into it with wisdom.
Okay.
Be very careful about making a choice to go into a thing like becoming any kind of detective, whether an SAPS detective or a private detective. That's number one. Number two is get the right training. Start off doing something in law enforcement. It doesn't have to be with the SAPS. Okay. But start off doing something in law enforcement, forensics, anything like that. Okay. There you will get a feel for whether you really love this or not. Because if you don't love it, don't do it.
I suppose that the same applies to many other professions, and the more you love what you do, the rest just follows.
Precise.
Because you kind of just go into the flow of what it is that your calling is and what you need to do.
100%.
So I think that the message of really doing what you want to do rather than doing what your parents think you should do, or what society thinks you should do, or what friends think you should do, this calling of saying, hey, I really, it's burning in my bones. This is really what I want to do. And when you do it, I mean, I speak for myself. I run a training company and I address people all day, and I love what I do. It's kind of not just love what I do. I love what I do, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference.
Well, you probably haven't worked a day in your life as a result.
Well, that's it.
That's the way I
It's
feel.
interesting that you should say that, because just recently I was asked, Lionel, so what work do you do? And I thought about it, and I said, I actually don't work.
No.
I occupy my time in doing various things.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of what I hear from you, is that you don't really work either.
Not
you
a
just
day in
go,
my life.
you just go out there and you do what you love, and this reward of finding the people that you're looking for, or completing the assignment that you are employed to do is phenomenal.
Well, just to give you an idea of the love affair that I have with this work, I've been doing it since I was 21. It's 34 years now.
Wow, okay, that's a pretty
Happy
long
anniversary.
Thank you.
That's fabulous.
Oh.
Are there any questions? Anything else
You know,
you thought you needed to ask?
I'm just blessed by this hour and by this moment that we have with you.
Thank you.
It's so much pleasing to what the youth can learn from you, to what the wise can learn from you, that it all comes from the heart, And from my side, I wanted to know what is the burning fire in you each and every single day that says, okay, this is not a job, but what is that burning fire that keeps you going?
To be teachable every day.
To be teachable.
Yeah.
Oh.
You cannot be a detective without wanting to find stuff out. So,
Yes.
and if you are not prepared to be a pupil, to be a learner,
Okay.
every single day until the day you die, okay, you are not going to get very far in investigations, because in doing an investigation is all about learning.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, there's a lot of research involved. And
Yeah, and you literally, in terms of techniques, you carry around this toolbox. Okay, if you ever stop adding to that toolbox, just stop doing the job, because there's constantly new techniques coming out.
Okay.
There's constantly new things happening in the world of investigation worldwide.
Okay.
And you can read about them, and you can learn about them online, and you can do all sorts of stuff like that, and literally add to the toolkit that you carry around inside you.
And which like YouTube shows are there? I'm hearing you saying that a person can learn about them. Is there any content that you can watch?
Oh, there's thousands. There's stuff that the FBI does,
Okay.
but I think the best stuff in the world is the TV programs that are done with the British Metropolitan Police.
Okay.
They are the oldest and best police force on earth, in my opinion. And just the very fact, they are the reason why I don't go around armed.
Wow.
Okay. Just because they don't either.
Their techniques are so incredible that there's very seldom a situation where they need an armed officer.
How do they protect themselves?
They use these,
Okay.
number one. But number two, it's their control of the space.
Which is what you said right at the beginning, talking
Yeah.
about the controlling the space and why your size actually helps is in your favor.
Yeah. For me, my size helps. There's a lot of smaller guys out there that are even better at that than me, though.
Okay. So it's not all about size.
It's not all about
think
size,
I
but
can
it
fit in,
helps. For me, it helps.
Yes,
Okay.
no, I'm with you.
My size gives me a confidence that just kind of helps. But
Yes,
the techniques that I learned from the Met, they call them the Met.
yes.
Okay, is how to take control of a space. Okay, how to take control. I mean, you watch these guys, and they do a blocking maneuver from a high-speed chase on a highway,
Okay.
right? With four vehicles. It's absolutely incredible to watch. They coordinate 4 police vehicles taking a guy off a highway at like 180 kilometers an hour. Right, pull him to a safe stop, pull him out of a vehicle, all without serious violence.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Beautiful.
it is incredible to watch, and it is because of their total command of the situation, total
Okay.
confidence, total just going in there and doing what they're trained to do. All I can say is well done, Oaks. It's like amazing to watch.
But that obviously comes with seniority, with time, with training, all that. So it's a complex. I mean, one thinks of a private investigator. I'm going to go around looking for people, but it's a complex industry which involves a lot of various components, which makes the job so interesting.
Yeah. The one
Fabulous.
bit of knowledge that I would like to not knowledge. One bit of advice I would like to impart is get to know the law. Really,
Yes, of course.
really well. We have to get to know the law even better than our police counterparts do,
Wow.
Okay.
because we have to work with civil law and criminal. Okay, so you've got to know exactly what you're talking about.
You okay? And get your facts straight.
Get your facts straight before you even go in. So what we do on any investigation, we won't just start an investigation up willy-nilly. We'll first have a proper consultation. I'm talking about a thorough 2-hour team consultation with the client.
Okay.
Okay. Then we will go into a planning phase
Okay.
before we even touch the investigation.
Wow. How long does that phase take?
About a
The planning
day.
phase? 1 day.
Yeah. I mean, we'll literally brainstorm for a day.
Okay.
Okay. It's really intense because you're picking apart every situation to see what you can do with the law and what you can't. You must remember, if you're going to present evidence in court, you've
need
got to have
know-
your stuff together.
Right.
Right? You cannot, the moment you get one piece of evidence in an illegal way, gets tossed out of court, and so does the rest of the case.
Oh no.
All right. Noel, a big warm thank you for spending this time with us and sharing knowledge and giving us some really fantastic insight on your profession. It certainly highlighted a lot of stuff for me and
It
cleared
was
up a
an
lot of stuff for
eye-opener.
me. Yeah, it really was. So Noel, bless you and thank you so much for coming and for giving up your time to be with us today and for giving our audience the insight of your profession. It means a lot, and I have no doubt that many young folk who hadn't thought of your profession will definitely be going out and possibly knocking at your door and saying, "Noel, please, could we work with you?"
Well, I tell you what, we're going to be growing as a company, and we are going to be, our thing is to take guys that we can mold.
Right, of course.
So instead of guys that are sort of set in somebody else's ways.
Yes, of course, yes.
So yes, we'll be looking for those young people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching Jobs Out the Box, another very interesting profession that we could look at today. We certainly look forward to sharing another one with you shortly. Stay tuned. And again, thank you, Piliso.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you for sharing the space with us. Take care.